Welcome to the show once again. Residents in Accra and Winneba will have to brace themselves for more power outages as GridCo announces that due to current ongoing works on its infrastructure in some parts of the country, the intermittent power outages currently being experienced will last until at least the end of July. According to Director of System Operations at GridCo, Mark Ewaba, after these outlined construction works on the Pokwase and Kaswa substations, the recent intermittent power outages would cease. He explains that due to the current construction, some of the contractors' request for power outages leading to some of the unscheduled power outages that you were having at home. Listen.
Currently, we are constructing the Pokwase substation, the Kaswa substation. These two substations are being funded under the Millennium Challenge Compact 2 projects. So MIDA is managing that funding for us. So you have Pokwase and Kaswa. And then we have projects that are being funded by AFD, Agence Française de Développement. And they are financing major transmission line projects from Tema to Accra and to Malam. We believe that by June, July, when all these projects are being completed, Ghanaians will now enjoy reliable power. But in order for them to be completed, the contractors on these projects have requested for outages. Because as they build, they have to connect it to the current system. So it is just like maybe you've invited an electrician to your house to come and fix some problem, and he comes and says, "Sir, madam, I have to switch off the mains for safe working space. Otherwise, somebody could die." And then madam could say that I'm preparing jollof, so I'm going to blend some tomatoes, so give me 30 minutes. It is the same thing in the larger grid. The contractors have asked for outages between now and July in order to complete the projects. We are talking of 330,000 volts. In our house, we have only 240 volts, and that can even kill. So they will be coming to us to request these outages. And when this happens, we grant them this outage. It means that some of us will have to go off. We are now working with ECG on the quantum of these outages and how long it will take. And we are also discussing with the contractor to, as much as possible, minimize the duration so that we will have the minimum impact of outages on customers.
Well, minimize the duration, he says. Mr. Magba there also explains that the systems of GridCo in Accra are overloaded.
During the evenings, peak hours, when the voltages are so low, sometimes we've resorted to taking off some feeders, particularly in Kumasi, in order to prop up the voltages. So you will have Kumasi continue to experience this outage situation. So we've noted that inherent problem, and there was a partial solution to it, whereby we moved one transformer from Accra to Kumasi. I'm saying partial because that is not the entire solution. There are also bottlenecks within the network in Greater Accra region, where our substations get overloaded. So once in a while, you see overloads and then interruptions. Let me also add that these interruptions are not only due to problems within the transmission network. When you are in your homes, as a customer, you are connected to the distribution network. ECG is bringing power to you. ECG is connected to the transmission network because power is coming through GridCo. And GridCo is bringing all the power from the generating companies. So between you in your homes or in your factories and the generating companies, you are actually physically linked. Any break in this link can result in a power outage.
Mark Ewaba from the GridCo there. He outlines efforts that are being put in place to solve the frequent power outages. Mark Ewaba also says that planned power cuts will only affect Accra, and he was emphatic, Accra and Winneba.
These outages are going to affect only Accra, I repeat, only Accra and Winneba. It is not nationwide. Pokuase, the 330 came from Abuaze. We are diverting it to Pokuase. And in order for you to divert it, you have to disconnect the 330 kV network. Otherwise, somebody will burn to death. So that is why it's going to happen. So in Kaswa, we are going to connect the existing lines from Cape Coast and Winneba, connect it to the Kaswa substation and continue to Accra. In order to do that, you have to take those lines off, and it will affect supply. So that is why we'll be coming to Accraians and Winnebans and say that these are the outages that are going to happen. It will affect you for a duration, and because by the time we will come out, we will know exactly the amounts and the duration. We would want to inform those who will be affected how it will be done so that they can plan their lives.
And that's why the GridCo is saying that it will not publish a timetable for these scheduled updates until it becomes very necessary. Here is the Chief Executive Officer of GridCo, Jonathan Amakoba.
I believe that when my Director System Operations was speaking, and I also added my voice to it, that when the time comes, we would inform Ghanaians. Currently, what we are doing, we have to be sure, because you cannot go and take off power and do nothing. We have to be sure of the time and the extent. So we are liaising with the contractors, not only the contractors. ECG is also involved. MIDA, who is the project funding agency, is also involved. We are dealing with all these people to come up with a comprehensive timetable. And this timetable, as we said, is only for Accra and Winneba. It is not a nationwide thing. It is only for Accra and Winneba. Let's get that right, so that we don't go and say that there's a national timetable for load shedding or doom or whatever it is. That is not the case. This is the timetable which they are asking for outages in order to complete the works for the system to be resilient, so that we wouldn't have the intermittent outages that we are having.
That's the head of GridCo there, speaking about the fact that there won't be a scheduled doom-sort plan, if that's what you may be expecting. But we want to hear from you. Go on our social media handles, especially Facebook, and drop to us a message. What do you intend to do? How do you intend to deal with your power problems at home and at work in the midst of all of these? We'll be talking to Kwejo Poku, who is an energy analyst. But I want to take you to the Ashanti region, because over there, the situation we're told will extend from the July that we're told will happen here in Accra till December. Okay, Erastus Asaridonko is joining us from Kumasi right now via Zoom. Hello, Erastus. Erastus.
Hello, Giti.
Yes, Erastus, take us through what officials in the Ashanti region are saying. We know what to expect here in Accra and in Winneba. What is the situation in the Ashanti region?
In fact, today's press conference was addressed by the Chief Executive of the ECG, that's Mr. Kwame Ajimambudu. He came to Kumasi to address that press conference. It was just to tell us that the problem we are experiencing in Kumasi is not as a result of he was speaking with respect to 161 kV line electricity. And he says that those lines
Erastus, I lost you briefly.
And so they need.
I lost you briefly, and there was an interruption on what you were saying, so we didn't understand it.
Electricity.
Okay, Erastus,
so
can you hear me?
That is what he's assigned in. Yeah, Gifty.
I lost you briefly, and so we can't make sense of that part.
Well, so what I was saying is that the press conference was addressed by the
we're having a hard time getting Erastus there. But let me engage Kwejo Poku, who is an energy analyst. Let's get his perspective on this. Mr. Poku, thank you very much for your patience. First of all, I believe that you heard GridCo and the explanations they are giving. Let me take your initial thoughts of what you heard from GridCo.
Said that some of these challenges have been technical, and it is not the usual doomsday that Ghanaians are aware of. And I think what GridCo came to say is just a reiteration of what some of us have been saying. I think it's a bit unfortunate that in the past, most media platforms do not get a direct communication with the PROs of some of these government institutions. And for a very long time, when one person from GridCo, Mr. Ebenezer Mankwa, tried to engage a media platform, his words were taken out of context, and that was what necessitated this press conference today. The gentleman, in his communication, never mentioned that there was going to be a nationwide doomsday schedule. But everybody jumped on that thing and made it look like there was going to be a doomsday schedule, and that is what brought up these news. It is technical. It is something that we are aware that the technical people are working on it. And it's a good thing that now you guys have heard it for yourself.
So it's a good thing, but people have said that this is not if this is about maintenance. It is not the first time that the National Grid Company is organizing maintenance, but what perhaps should have been done was to have a plan. So even if this is not a doomsday, so you don't need a schedule for it, there has to be a schedule for the inconvenience that will be created to homes and offices that rely on power.
Well, but this is not maintenance. You know, if you want to understand what is going on, it's not maintenance.
Okay, break it down for us, please.
This is, look, in the beginning of the year, we've seen some of their machines, some parts of their lines tripping. These machines over a certain time need to be upgraded. These machines at a certain time need to be changed. From that press conference that you listened to, it tells you that the first time in February this year, we went past 3,000 megawatts as a country. 10 years ago or 9 years ago, when we started doomsday in 2012, when we didn't have enough installed capacity, generation was around 1,200. Now, 9 years down the line, we have gone past 3,000. What it means is that the lines and the machines that were transporting 1,200 megawatts is now transporting 3,000 megawatts. So even if you are not supposed to now upgrade it, the old ones need to be changed so that you don't have the frequent tripping that has become the bane and causing the problem. So it is not about maintenance. Maintenance, they have their scheduled maintenance, which they do. This exercise and the problem facing the country is about upgrading our infrastructure and building new ones that will now resolve the problems that we have. So I honestly don't think it's fair if we try to put it down as when they are doing maintenance. This is a very peculiar situation which is not about maintenance.
I see. So it's a more like a necessary evil. Are you then saying that there isn't a way that the managers of the National Grid Company could have reduced the inconvenience that people are going to experience between now and July and December for the Ashanti region?
Well, the Ashanti region problem, that Kumasi and the environs, the problem they are facing now is not as a result of the project. That project have not started yet. What ECG and GridCo are doing is that, okay, we are going to now have to shed load, like as the man said, for projects to go on. We are going to shed maybe 100 megawatts or 150 megawatts. How many communities can we share the 150 megawatts with? Is it fair to let's say, Atonsu or one area in Kumasi, maybe Swami, or maybe Dansuman or Winneba alone take all the load shedding that needs to be done? So that is when they would decide that let's not put all the outages in one area. Let's spread it across so that some people will get some and would only get it for a short number of time. So the disruption felt by an individual will not be as much as if you are only burdening only one community with all the lights off. That is what the schedule is for. The schedule is not because we don't have the generation capacity. They could just say that, look, one area in Winneba or one area in Pukwasi is going to go off for 1 week. Then that one, they are the only people that are going off. But this is a situation where they want to spread so that maybe one community goes on for 4 hours and the other community will go on for maybe another 4 hours. But that is only doing when the contractors request that. What is going on in Kumasi now is not contractors requesting or a project that is going on. It is as a result of machines not being able to carry the existing load, meaning that it keeps tripping. And when it trips, to stabilize the GridCo system, they have to take some parts of the country off. And unfortunately, Kumasi happens to be one of the areas that trips. And when they need to stabilize, they have to take lights off from Kumasi.
If I understand what you're saying properly, then it means that Kumasi should be able to provide for the people a schedule, a load shedding schedule.
Well, as it's explained, the work going on now does not include load shedding schedule for Kumasi. Kumasi is only going off because the lines and the system that powers Kumasi keeps tripping. So there is no need to provide a schedule for Kumasi because you don't know when the machine is going to trip. So it's unfortunate that it just happens in one central area. But as the man rightfully also explained, most of our load is being pumped from the south to the north. So you now have to go through the central part of the country, which is where Ashanti Region is, and the load congestion in that area is what is causing some of these machines to trip. So it is a technical thing, but we just hope that everybody will be patient. There isn't going to be a nationwide load shedding, as it has been clarified. And some of us, even the CSOs, are now asking that the managers of GridCo and ECG come next week Thursday to engage the CSOs and use the media to give further explanation, because today what they did for me was a bit more of a summary. The CSOs also, who are very technical, wants to now engage and drill down on some of these. So when you call me, I will have much better particulars and further information to give you. So we are engaging them next week Thursday to understand further what is being done and what needs to be done more. So I'm sure your station will be invited to cover that program. But next week Thursday, the CSOs are also meeting the GridCo and then the ECG management. Okay.
We'll be taking some reactions from people in Kumasi especially. I mean, they are going to have to deal with it for as long as between now till December. But what advice would you have for people who rely so much on power? I mean, all of us do on a daily basis, but people, you know, businesses who rely so much on power, any advice, even for homes, what can we do?
Yeah, where did you get the from now to December from?
That's what Kumasi
Nobody has said that light in Kumasi is going to go up between now and December.
That's what Ashanti Region says.
That's what
they had their own press conference today, yes.
Yes, no, but nobody said that the problem in Kumasi is going to go on to December. I don't think Mr. Ajimambudu in Kumasi said that.
That's what they're saying.
I beg to differ. I don't think that was said. They are giving us till the middle of the year to resolve most of these problems. I don't think anybody will say that between now and December.
Hang on for me, Mr. Akwejo-Poku. Let me bring in my colleague from the Ashanti region. Let's just clarify this once and for all. Erastus, help us clarify this. Did authorities, the power or energy authorities in Ashanti region say that for the region, the power outages, the expected power outages would be extended between now till December?
That is what Mr. Kwame Ajimambudu, Chief Executive ECG, said to the media today at the press conference. He said, by close of December this year, that is when they are sure the outages will stop, because that's the time that all the challenges that they are facing with the systemic problems will be fixed. And so he has given up to the end of this year for the outages to stop. And his words, it was at the press conference, it was recorded. So yes, emphatically, that's what he said.
Erastus, thank you. Hang on for me still. I'll come back to you. Mr. Kojepoku, that's my colleague, Erastus Asaridonko, who covered that particular press conference.
Well, currently, that information given by the ECG managing director, if ECG has maintenance and schedule work in Kumasi in the environs till December, I have no idea. But for the information I am reliably informed with, the work that GridCo is doing, most of these challenges will be done by July. So I honestly don't know where their December schedule is coming from. Maybe ECG have work that they are going to undertake throughout the year, and maybe that would also cause some of these disruptions to happen. But again,
as you said, let's give it time.
Hold on,
to get
let me land.
clarity.
Again, that is why some of us are engaging them directly on next week Thursday to get to the bottom of some of these things. That we will now ask them the question. So now, when they have told you till December the outages will stop, nobody asks them what exactly are they doing that is taking them till December. We, the CSOs, will have the opportunity to ask them those questions next week Thursday.
Yeah, that's okay. We'll give it time and get the clarity, as much clarity as possible. But Mr. Kojepoku, back to the question, my final question before you go. What advice do you have for power consumers on what they can do within this time?
Well, unfortunately, because, like I said, it is not a scheduled work that you know. And if it's scheduled work, they have promised that they will give a maintenance, they will give a schedule. So if it's scheduled, they will give a timetable. If it's not scheduled and it's intermittent tripping and intermittent problems, then that one is difficult to give a maintenance for. To give us a timetable for. So we are just hoping that we will engage them further. I honestly wouldn't be able to tell anybody how to go about their life because there's going to be emergency tripping of electricity. I wouldn't even know how to start that advice.
That's
what I would want to be able to do is to interrogate further with the ECG boss, interrogate further with the GridCo bosses, and find out that, look, what is it that you're going to do between July and December that Kumasi should expect outages till December? And when we do get that clarity, we'll be able to come back to you and feed you the information.
Fair enough. Mr. Kojepoku, we appreciate your time. Thank you. Kojepoku is an energy analyst there. You've heard his thoughts on what's going to happen. But we want to hear from you on Facebook and on Twitter. Share with us, what plans do you have? Do you intend to buy a generator? Maybe. What do you want to do? Share that plan with us, and let's see if along the line we can figure something out. I go back to Erastus Asaridonko. Erastus, I lost you at the beginning, and you were giving us updates from the press conference earlier on today.
Exactly. So Mr. Kwame Agyemang-Budu has been speaking to the press. He attributes the cause of the problem to some systemic failures. And specifically, he says that the transmission lines of power to Kumasi is currently on a 161 kV line. And they intend to upgrade that to 330 kV line. And so that will stabilize the power. Again, the other cause he talks about is the low levels of water in the Bui hydro power station. And he says that that is supposed to cushion Kumasi in case of this problem, but that one is also down. And so currently that is why we are experiencing these problems. He, however, says that they are trying to bring Ameri to Kumasi with a capacity of 200 megawatts so that in case they have any challenges, that one will kick in and cushion Kumasi against any future power outages. They are also trying to, like I said, fix the transmission lines and hook Kumasi onto a new line that is more reliable, and that is expected to cushion us and so prevent these outages. But that is going to end in December. Those works being conducted by GridCo is going to end in December. And so they can say that by December this year, the power outages will stop.
We'll see how it goes. Erastus, you've been engaging some people. How is Kumasi taking this information?
In fact, in areas where they are directly affected, I can speak of Ayija Extension, Oforikrum, Asukwa and its environs, Swami, and Angomaso. They are very, very angry. In fact, those I spoke with were very angry when they heard that these intermittent power cuts are going to travel all the way to December. And they feel that ECG owes them a timetable, a scheduled timetable. But like I said, the managing director for ECG thinks that these outages cannot be determined, they cannot be predicted, and so they cannot provide any scheduled timetable for these intermittent power cuts. So people are angry on the streets, and they think that the government should come in, lower the timetable or the duration for which the outages are expected to last, because December is too far.
And let's hear from some of those that you've been speaking to.
Well, I think it's very bad to hear that, and very, very, very sad. We hearing that it's going to be sorted around by the end of next year or by the end of this year is really appalling. But I think that the ECG and maybe the president should have another meeting and discuss and make possible amendments, then sort things out. So because having this power shortage here and there is really, really, really disturbing. It's really disturbing. It's really disturbing. I'm facing some difficulties, but considering those having those cold stores and other things, that things are getting spoiled, and that one too is costing them very a lot when it comes to the economic sectors and those kind of things. Yeah. So I think they should have an amendment to it. That's what I think. Thank you.
Well, I doubt there's going to be any amendments to that plan. Erastus, this gentleman is talking about an amendment, as he puts it. That's not going to happen, is it? But you also put together, I mean, we've had reports also from the region, especially from Triasi, where they have their own power situation, but they're going to have to deal with that from between now till December.
Well, the Triasi situation is quite different, because they have the electricity poles arranged. They are yet to be connected to the grid, and so they have not tested electric power for a very long time, over 10 years. But these are areas where we have electricity already. And in my area, for example, it goes off around 7 p.m. every day, and then it comes on around 12 midnight. Sometimes it travels to the following day, and it's on a daily basis. And so the situation is that bad. And for people who are using it for commercial purposes, like the cold stores and other areas, this is a huge financial loss to them if this should travel all the way to December before we can get a solution.
Well, I guess we should expect a boom in generator sales then. Erastus, thank you very much. Erastus Asari-Donko, there, my colleague in the Ashanti region, joining us with the reactions we're getting from the Ashanti region on their own situation there.